go. Cloud Reset Podcast. Here we are, day 2 at the Higher Education Technology Agenda, Theta, as it's known. We're in beautiful sunny Perth. The mornings have been fresh, I have to say, but the place is beautiful. This is awesome. There's heaps of people. Jono, you've just gotten off stage. You've done a keynote. What did you talk about?
Well, it was a pretty difficult keynote, I got to say, because I followed a guy called Craig, who was pretty much single-handedly responsible for rescuing 12 Thai kids out of a cave in 2018.
What an amazing story.
Incredible story.
Yeah.
So tough act to follow there with Craig.
Yeah.
But what we're there to talk about today is the launch of Cogniti Cloud. We're not going to talk too much about that on this podcast. We're going to introduce our special guest next.
We are.
But a fantastic group of people, and it's been really great to be here.
Thank you, Jono. Well, look, without further ado, I'm going to introduce our guest. His name is Jim Cook. Jim is the Manager for Digital Innovation, Sydney University. I love that job title, Jim. I'm jealous of that already. Let's see. He's got a mandate to become a leader in safe and responsible AI. He's led a transformational journey to develop robust AI capability, including Cogniti. We're going to talk more about that.
Sure.
Their in-house AI tool, which has now been commercialised. Huge investment and support from Microsoft. Jim, welcome to the Cloud Reset Podcast.
It is fantastic to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Talk to us. So,
Right.
what's going on at Sydney University? Why do you get to have such a cool job title?
Yeah, I mean,
What's going on? And you also got a cool beard as well, so it's
Cool
just
beard.
all kinds of cool going on here.
we were
Talk
just
us
saying
through
when we came in, the beard and the jacket are to make you remember the things I say, very importantly.
It's working already.
So at Sydney, we've been sort of on this AI journey for the last sort of 3 years, maybe longer than that, maybe 7 years. With the digital innovation capability that I lead, we've been in there since 2012. And we were always tasked with the mission of let's drag people kicking and screaming into modern technology. So that's been like our journey to cloud.
Yep.
That's been virtual reality in the classroom, those sorts of things. Lots of emerging technology and modern architectures and practices. But the last 3 years has been pretty much dominated by artificial intelligence, as you can expect. Since we had all our executives lost their mind when ChatGPT came out back in November. Not even 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago at this point?
Wow, that wasn't that long ago.
It's not that long ago. It's quite terrifying.
Wow.
And then now we're sort of trying to punch ahead. Tools like Cogniti, because we're trying to create equity in the classroom.
Yep.
Make sure everyone's got access to safe and responsible AI, as you said in the intro there.
Yes.
Safe and responsible. That was the Vice Chancellor. He went to the Sydney Morning Herald before coming to us and just said we're going to be leaders in safe and responsible AI. So now I've been playing catch up for 2 years.
Okay.
But I think we're doing pretty well.
All right. Now, something like Cogniti, and we'll want to talk about what that is and what purpose it serves. How did that start? Was there a brief? Was there a problem to be solved? Talk us through that, the origins of where that came from.
Yeah, so mid 2023, with ChatGPT out and about everywhere, students are going to start using it for assessment. Right? We just know they're going to start putting the homework into the ChatGPT.
Yep.
The answer's going to come out. They're going to submit those, and now we've got a real problem with authentic assessment, because we know that we're not going to be able to assess them in a way that's meaningful. Right? We're not going to be able to prove they've learned something.
Did it happen immediately? Like as soon as GPT rocked up on the scene, was it just immediately in play?
Yeah, look, there might have even been guys using other tools before that. There was things out and about there, and like it was a day one problem.
Yes.
And so we had to think about, well, that's good. We can take assessment and we can make authentic assessments where AI is allowed.
Yes.
Yeah, and we could say use AI to do this homework, but you're going to have to explain the working, or you're going to have to explain how you use the AI to do it, and things like that.
Yes.
Or you're going to do tasks that are Socratic in nature. And so Danny Liu, Professor Danny Liu in Educational Innovation at Sydney, came up with the great idea that what if we built an equitable system that we could control the prompt engineering around, we could control the flow of discussion, and we could review the students' work inside the system as part of that teaching. It's threefold, because it gives us a better mechanism of assessment.
Yep.
It gives us we can control the quality of the discussion that the student has with the agent, and it's just an equity of access component, because students from low socioeconomic backgrounds, they can't afford. What does Google charge now for the latest one? $200.
Yes.
Or ChatGPT, $200 for the high end model.
Yes.
That's not something we can pass on that cost on.
I get it. Got it. And
Really interesting. Tell us more, if we could just dive a little bit deeper into the impact on student learning. Naren and I have spoken to a few different industry leaders around this idea of the democratization of knowledge as it relates to AI, and what that might mean for the education sector and the student. And you're talking about now actually doubling down and leveraging the tool to teach, as opposed to sort of moving away from it and being worried about plagiarism and these sorts of things. Is that probably fair to say?
100%. I think one of the big challenges we face is that we're taking a student, we're moulding them with the skills of Sydney, and the knowledge of Sydney, and we're crushing all of this information into them, but we're also building out things like making them good leaders, making them good researchers, making them be able to operate in teams, and all these graduate outcomes that we're pushing for. And really, I think one of those graduate outcomes, the emerging graduate outcome, is fluency with artificial intelligence. We want to send them out into the workforce ready to take the jobs that do not exist yet.
Yes.
We need to prepare them because I guarantee you, my dad's 70 and he is using generative AI in his work.
Wow.
Right? Like, I showed him how to do it. He's like, I'm going to use this all the time.
Yeah.
Once people get it, and it's in every workplace, and he's not a software engineer or anything like that. He works in plumbing and gas fitting.
Yeah.
Right? So every job is a technology job. Every job is going to have some element of generative AI in it.
Yes.
If we're not building out our students to have those skills when they go to the workforce, then they're already behind when they leave.
Jono, this takes me back to the conversations we had about the mad scientists in our own organisation. We've got a very successful graduate program within Macquarie, and so we're always looking for grads that have got that aspiration, that desire to explore technology and to play around with it, and it seems to be self-fulfilling somewhat as well. And the more you play around with the tools, and that's why I was really interested about the origins of Cogniti and sort of how you got that up from grassroots. We know within our own business that the more we work with the technology and the more we can encourage members of our team, and not just within our hosting management centre either, but our engineers, etc., to use the technology to come up with capabilities and efficiencies, that it will spawn other ideas. And the more we play with it, the more we use it, the more we think, well, hang on a second, we can improve this or we can improve that. And we know that we reduced our mean time to respond in our security business by half, just by sheer determination. But more importantly, it was nurturing the aspirations of the people in our organisation that wanted to play with the tools. And I imagine you're doing the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, there's a big difference between how our staff use AI and how our students use AI. So Cogniti specifically targeting our student cohort. It is pedagogically designed by teachers for students. But it's a little bit co-designed by students for students as well. And you bring them in and you take them on that journey for it. We've just released a new feature actually that's coming out. I think it's in beta right now, so some users who are on Cogniti already will have access, but it's the sandpit. It essentially allows the students to then make their own Cogniti agents, so they can engage with their own learning and teaching in that way as well. So they can you can set an assignment now that is go and create an agent for this task. Here's the actual task, and you're going to create the agent that achieves it.
That's incredible. Do you see this technology speeding up the time that it would otherwise take to complete a degree, for example, and make somebody ready for the workforce?
Good question. I think we have to be careful with some of the things around our TEXA regulations and things like that, around what level of readiness we need to provide to students. And we also have to be able to, it's not just making them more intelligent quickly. It's also, university is also a social experience. And I think if they did university in 1 year or 1.5 years, they might miss some of that other important building blocks of being a human and a participant in society.
I've got to say, just from my own personal experience, I didn't grow up until about 23. You know what I mean? I needed every year of university just to turn into a reasonable human being.
Well, there you go.
If
there's any students listening out there, sorry guys, I tried.
Yeah, it was a valiant effort.
Okay.
Look, can it give them mastery quicker? That is potentially true. So general capability in a degree, if you take an engineering degree or something like that, to get to the base level, that's a general thing. But if you want to be a master of your trade, and that's the students that you want for your graduate program,
Yes.
right? If you want to get those ones that want to be a master of their trade and going all the way to that thing, then it can really help people go from like being good enough to excelling.
Well, we want that mix of skills too, right? I mean, like our business is very people-facing. We service other businesses, and we're huge on customer experience, and so we need personable, aspiring technologists who can hold a conversation and care about customer experience as well, right? It's a massive part of our business, so it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I think that interacting with people is one of the big skills, the soft skills.
Yes.
And AI can actually help with that quite a lot. In Cogniti, we have like a few different modes and a few different methods. The Socratic method is that Socratic tutoring. It's like, I'm not going to give you the answer.
Yeah.
I'm going to guide you to the answer. But there's also the role play element to it.
Yeah.
So using it for role playing your future career.
Got it.
Particularly, there's a really good example that you'll find in one of the videos that we've published with Microsoft around in occupational health and therapy. And essentially having that conversation with the AI as if they're the patient.
Oh, wow.
And the AI acts as the patient inside Cogniti with all the guardrails and scaffolding of the subject matter and keeping it from going off the rails.
Yes.
And keeping it from hallucinating and things like that.
Yes.
And just basing it in the curricula and having it role play in the context of being a patient. It's just incredible. We do it in a second year physiology class. Blows the students out of the water every time.
Wow.
Often for some of them it might be the first time they're encountering like a guided AI experience. They might be using, ChatGPT on their phone or something like that, or Copilot on their phone, and just I'm chatting to it, having discussions, asking it where the best pizza in town is or something like that. But this is often their first guided experience with it, and it's just like you see the mind shift. You see them like, oh, hang on, I could use this to do test assessments right up until until the main assessment's due, and I'm still going to have to do that main assessment proctored or in an environment where I can't use the AI, but I've got so many practice opportunities as often as I need.
Yeah.
We are often looking at use cases in the commercial space. A lot of our customers and potential customers, for good reason, are very interested in agentic AI and generative AI for productivity gains.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what does this tool mean from a productivity gains standpoint in terms of the effectiveness of the teaching staff at the university? Can they teach more students per teacher? How's that playing out?
There's been a massive sweep through Australia recently that you guys will be familiar with is the right to disconnect.
Yes.
Right? And the right to disconnect is not a thing that teachers have. Legislatively they do, but they're always thinking about class. They're doing marking. Practically, they don't really do it. Yeah. This is actually what would a duplicate of you be able to achieve in the times when you are not available? So can we put one in there that's we ask students to do homework essentially, right? What if we can put an agent together where they can engage about the homework with that agent after hours? And it has all of the rubric, it has all of the knowledge of the subject, and it has all of the instructions that you provided it with. What does that do to release the load on you? Because previously that might have been a chat forum or a study board or something like that where you would have to engage, or the tutors might have to engage with the students. What if you've got a first tier that can capture all of that? And also around like the operational things of running a unit, managing the rubric and creating test questions and things like that. AI is obviously, for synthetic data, one of the best use cases we have. You could generate 50,000 questions in the time it would take you to write 5. So using it for generating really high quality test exams and things like that is really, really powerful for the teachers.
Such an optimistic use of the tech.
Well, it's like it's an evolving list of capability.
Yeah.
But it feels like with every month, I imagine you just keep coming up with new ideas and capabilities. You've opened it up to students, like you said, with the sandpit, which is amazing. Now, obviously, models are changing all the time. Like we had our own project in-house. It's a project due to our manager, James, Customer Insights Project, whereby every other week there was a new model or a capability that just suddenly found itself in scope and it was delivering a different requirement or a different output. How are you dealing with that?
Yeah, so not so much in Cogniti. I think we've kind of nailed that down. What we do is we use the AI Foundry, do evaluations across the models in the Azure AI Foundry, and evaluate across the models with the prompting that we have in place, the workflows we have in place. That becomes a bit old hat now. It's kind of like we have to do it. So, when we're going right now, we're looking at moving off of 4 Turbo because 4 Turbo will be retiring early July, I think.
Okay.
So we got 4 or so weeks to get that out of the way.
Yes.
And we're looking at like what models, which of our agents will work best with 4.0, which will work best with 4.1, and then making sure that we have those decisions in place and working with the academics who technically own them. That's their agent, right? And making sure that they understand what the new difference will be and how they can test it.
Because we have this constant debate too of what state does my data platform and my data modeling need to be in to take advantage of generative AI. Now, there's different schools of thoughts on this. Within our own business, for example, I know that we applied an agent to a data source, and we had like 20 different data sources that allowed us to draw the sufficient insights necessary to explore where we're at with any given customer on what we've sold to them. Are they happy with service? Do they consider it value for money? Is net promoter score tracking? Is the relationship good? And so on and so on. Now, we have agents for every data source, and there's a scheduler agent that sits on top that sort of corrals them. But we know that different models behave differently with different data sources.
Sure.
Right? And so there was an art in figuring that out, and I think it was just through lived experience and playing with it that we were able to induce the right outcomes. I'm assuming you're doing the same thing. There's a lot of trial and error and testing and playing around going on. You must have a good cohort of people that are giving you that validation.
I think the key thing is that expectation management with the customer, right? And I use the term customer loosely because everyone is a customer of the University of Sydney, right? You could be you guys going to come back to a postgraduate degree. You're a future customer, right?
Sure.
You're acquired in that way. So I think what I mean is the coalition that we're working with, the students, the academics. The expectation management is everything. We need a new type of service model now, and I don't know what it looks like yet.
Interesting.
We're teasing it out as we go, right? Because as you said, there's a new feature every 6 days.
Right.
There's a great piece of benefit that the organization can take advantage of.
Yeah.
Microsoft's released it. It's a new thing. It's in preview.
Yeah.
And you've got to start working now so that you can deploy it in 3 weeks' time or 4 weeks' time to get the benefit and stay as a leader.
Yes.
Right. I think expectation management about this, you need a backup plan because this might not work, is the first thing.
Yes.
And we're not here to replace humans, importantly. We're here to augment humans.
Yes.
And just setting the expectation with people around what they can expect as you tune it.
Yes.
And not necessarily through fine-tuning, but maybe through adapting the grounding and things like that, right, across the model. Or fine-tuning if necessary, which we don't see a lot of now. I think actually, if you'd asked me 2 years ago, fine-tuning was the answer to everything. But now I think actually, better grounding technologies and better grounding approaches are actually the better way to do it with foundational models. So that makes it a little easier because what we can do is we can plug all those prompt flows or those orchestrations, all those functional outputs and things like that into the evaluation pipeline, and we can include them as part of it. And now with structured outputs, it's a little easier too. So as the models come more into the structured outputs, we can architect what we want to get back from it a lot easier. It used to be very difficult, I'll say, just in 3.5 and early 4, you used to, I want this back. Well, you might get that back. The determinism, the non-determinative nature of it has sort of been tied down by the technology a little bit. And that's through the work of people way outside of our scope. That's engineers at Microsoft in Redmond that are handling that sort of thing and making that easier for us. But I think before that, it was too time consuming. You wouldn't be able to do it. You just have to wear it.
Yeah, of course.
Especially like Cogniti now has 1,000 agents in Sydney, and it's in there's 22 institutions already using it, and we've got a backlog of 120 institutions that want to onboard it. So we can't test all of their every single prompt that they're going to do.
No.
On my presentation this morning, I showed that we had 70,000 users currently on Cogniti at Sydney, which is our entire student cohort pretty much.
It's
so
amazing.
we're almost there. Almost all the way to every class using it.
Yes.
And we can't test 6,000 agents manually.
No,
You've got to do it on an automation process.
Wow.
That's an incredible user base for a relatively short period of time.
Yeah, 2 years.
There's a lot of ISVs that would kill for those
Yeah.
kind of numbers, right, Jim?
Testing on our own students helps though, right? So, we
For
built
sure.
it in-house and then we, our
Are you
beachhead
saying
was
they
our
don't
own
have a
audience.
choice?
Well,
No, I'm kidding.
technically you're right though, because
Yeah.
if we're to look at it in that concept, Texas is bringing in regulation around what assessment should look like.
Yeah.
Right. So we're going to see the 2-lane assessment approach that we've adopted at Sydney become probably more and more common across the sector, which means they won't have a choice. Danny Liu, the mind behind Cogniti, the Professor Danny Liu, he makes the great point that if an assessment could be completed by AI, then it probably should be completed by AI. So don't give a task to a human that an AI is better at.
Yeah, right.
So
Yeah,
create
so pitch higher. Yeah,
Yeah.
have bigger aspirations. I get it.
That's right.
Makes
And-
perfect sense.
And so theoretically, then the rising tide lifts all the boats.
That's
right?
exactly right.
So we should have better quality learning outcomes
That's right.
for
And better
students.
quality graduates for your graduate program.
Now, I want to talk to you about your working relationship with Microsoft. Clearly, we have a lot to do with Microsoft. I'm the head of the Azure business. I spend every other day talking to and working with Microsoft, bless them, right? And they're a critical strategic partner for us, as is Dell, who we're with, obviously, for Theta. Satya Nadella's language around this stuff has changed. He's now talking about peering relationships, right? He's talking about peering off to agents that can do, and I loved the role-playing example that you gave.
Yep.
And so there's a changing nature of working with the technology as opposed to it just being augmentation. But let's talk about working with Microsoft. Obviously, they've they must love you for a
Yeah,
start. You are a
we have a
poster
pretty
child
good-
of outcome, so
Yeah.
they've certainly gotten what they wanted out of this, but equally you must have gotten what you wanted out of them too.
Yeah, so we,
Right.
our Chancellor and their former CTO, very good friends, both came through Telstra together, and they kind of got together and said, what can we do at scale? How can we make the relationship a bit better? Because what we were doing is essentially, we buy Azure services, right? And and everybody's got Office 365 and all those services. And so we have Copilot and things like that as well.
Yes.
But we're building things in their environment, and how can we make it a bigger story about education being a partner with Microsoft in that way? So we signed a memorandum of understanding with them to look to advance the use of AI in the higher ed sector. And that was the goal. It was a very broad goal,
Yes.
but that was the goal in that context. And so what that's meant is that Microsoft have really been our partner beside us on that journey. I think that we would meet with Microsoft 5 to 6 times a week across different streams of initiative. Mondays, every Monday, meet with Peter Zing and Katie Ford and Karen McRae. They're our data, AI, and then Jen comes along, Jen Hogan, our account specialist. And they also bring in people that are necessary for other areas when we have questions about things, and they'll get in the weeds with us around development. So in my team, I've got a couple of great devs, but they'll come along to those and they'll pose their problems to Microsoft, and they'll say, I want to try and do this. We're building an app or a tech or a piece of kit to do this thing. What have you done before? What have you seen before? And they are very, very collaborative. They'll come in, they'll help us on those sorts of things. Also, more broadly, we're doing all our migrations around our infrastructure and things like that.
Sure.
We're advisors on that. The usual, everybody's got to run their business,
Of course.
right? And then also, obviously, Cogniti, we're in the process of commercializing it through the Azure Marketplace.
Yes.
So probably by June 16th. Not sure when this comes out, but if it's after June 16th, it's out. Go and look on the marketplace and download Cogniti, helping us with the investment needed to deliver that, because we're a small team in Sydney.
Sure.
There's only a few developers that have been working across Cogniti for the last 2 years, and to build a marketplace app that's a startup job. Everyone in Sydney has their full-time job either teaching or doing research or something like that. So how are they going to do that? Well, Microsoft's going to bring some money and help us out.
Right.
We had in that context, we had the largest ESIF investment that Microsoft has ever done in Australia.
Congratulations. How much was that?
Yeah.
Don't have to answer
You
that.
don't have to answer that. I'm being cheeky.
Well, let's do some cool things.
Well
So first,
deserved too.
let's get the Microsoft logo there.
Yep,
Let's get the Sydney Uni logo there.
love it.
All
Yeah,
right.
really
How
good.
about
Yeah.
Perfect.
that? Good.
Speaking of commercializing this stuff, we've got a bit of experience with the marketplace and delivering some offers on there as well ourselves. It's not an easy thing. It's quite a rigorous process for those ambitious people out there. So we definitely have first-hand experience with what you're going through. And obviously Microsoft is really generous and they've got deep pockets of great ideas.
Yep.
And it's fantastically supporting the sector. You're talking about commercialization of this offer. Is this a new revenue stream for the uni? How do you charge for this? Are there new commercial models for this tech? People are talking about paying for tokens or cycles.
Yep.
Or what's your view on this?
So it's a great question because it's such a hard question. If you go out and you buy Copilot from Microsoft, right, on your Copilot 365, and you spend your $30 or whatever, you get a bunch of capabilities and a bunch of tools that sit in your environment. It's great. It's really, really useful for people who live, eat and breathe in SharePoint, in OneDrive and things like that.
Yep.
But we can't charge $30 for every student at an institution
No.
with Cogniti because it's got a targeted use case, right? And then we look in the market, ChatGPT's $20. There's different tools that are targeted. I use a great tool called Gamma. Don't know if you know it, but it's like $9 a month or $8 a month. There's a lot of different things around this. But they're SaaS models. SaaS models are going to work for some use cases, but generally speaking, in the higher ed sector, what we're seeing is that people want to deploy into their own Azure environment. So what we've done is we've built out all the bicep and all the structures to deploy into their environment an entire Cogniti instance. And then they just pay a small licensing fee.
That's cool. Like a solution. I get it. I mean, that's very similar to our own Macquarie Guard, same sort of thing.
Yeah.
Bunch of controls that live within existing customers' tenancies, subscriptions, etc. Makes perfect sense.
And so then the customer can tune their infrastructure costs according to the scale.
Yeah, scale it up, scale it down.
They need.
Awesome. Yeah, exactly.
All right.
And you can manage the infrastructure costs in that way, and you can do that evaluation component that we're talking about, right? So if you think you need this different model, you're free to go and plug it into Cogniti. So you can go and get 4.5 if you want to spend that sort of money.
Yeah.
Plug it into Cogniti for some sort of service and deliver it in that way.
And how is your team keeping downward pressure on your infrastructure costs in terms of your test, dev, and production environments? Because I know that's a huge concern for a lot of people that we talk about when they're developing in hyperscale cloud.
Yeah, light flight and essentially migrating through dev you at Broad. We have a situation where we only deploy one set of token engineering, one Azure AI search, and then have different petitions inside it. It's just not financially viable to deploy a full dev version of it in most cases. The same thing with things like Fabric. We do a lot of development on Fabric.
Yes.
And like until very recently, and I'll say like April, if you wanted to test any of the agentic things in a dev environment, you had to deploy a F64 SKU, $30,000 a month infrastructure. But now you can do like an F2 or an F4 for a couple $100. That I think Microsoft's really coming to the party on enabling little dev environments and enabling scalability. Because previously, if you wanted to do a Fabric integration, well, you better have a full prod dev environment spending $40,000-$50,000 a month on each, or you wouldn't be able to do it.
I love that. Jim, we're getting the wrap up on time. I
Got
guess final thoughts for maybe other universities or even organisations that are yet to really embrace generative AI. How should they start?
Do one thing. Go and deploy some Azure AI tokens, a little GPT-4 or something like that, and then plug it through Power Apps into Teams and fiddle. Do the most basic thing. It's low code. It's not going to require any developers or anything like that. Get that in there and start to feel it out, and you will develop use cases.
Great. Love that. Great experience. That's lived experience, Jono. Keeps coming up every conversation we've had. Jim
Getting
Cook,
hands dirty.
thank you so much for joining on the
It's been
Cloud
my
Reset
pleasure.
podcast. Fantastic.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you. That's a wrap.